right, Sistas fans. Now, this is an interesting discussion that I don't think I've ever done on this channel before. I mean, I think, a lot of us have all agreed that, hey, once Zach and Fatima blew up, they became the fan favorite characters of the show. But in terms of who is the main character of Sistas, I don't think I've ever discussed that. And this is coming from the post I did a couple days ago. I listed and ranked the 5 seasons of Sistas. And when I looked at season 1, I said season 1 was a solid season, a bit too Andy focused, but at the same time, her story was a good enough reason or storyline to continue watching season 1. Just wish the other women had other things to do, to get more added to their stories as well. And then somebody responded, and this is coming from Twitter. The main character is Andy. Everyone was built around her, so her storyline should remain relevant and interesting. I'm going to come back to that. Seasons are starting to drag. I think they can speed up the content and move faster. Karen and Hayden's storylines need to end. The comedic timing is a lot at times, but honestly, the first 2 sentences are the relevant ones. The main character is Andy. Everything's built around her. And, the storyline should remain relevant and interesting. Now, let me put it this way. Honestly, I don't know about all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm a fan. I mean, do I know some stuff? Yeah, I do. But not everything. Now, going back to season 1. When I first saw the cast lineup for the main characters, Andy, Danny, Karen, and Sabrina, I believe that it was, yes, KJ Smith, Andy was the main character. If memory serves from the different Sisters after shows and various interviews with the characters on different, news outlets and podcasts and whatnot, it's been confirmed, that the show was built for Andy as a character. Originally KJ Smith was supposed to be Lily in the Oval. And the funny story being that, when everybody was in a room and Tyler was like, hey, everybody, you all got a part. But then KJ got called to the side and it's like, uh-oh. But it's like, hey, I don't want you in the Oval as Lily because I think you would be a better fit in this other show I'm working on. So from there, Andy was eventually created. And yes, you could argue that, yeah, the show was definitely built around this character because if I'm not mistaken, out of the 4 actresses when the show first started, I think it is safe to say that KJ Smith was the biggest name out of the 4. I could be wrong, but based on the resume. Also, side note, I am well aware that KJ has been in a lot of stuff, but since the Sister Slope, and this is a small little tangent, since, Sisters and Zatima are off the air, I'm kind of slowing down. I think you all know I need a break. The channel has over 8,300 videos. I need to slow it down a little. Don't get me wrong. I'm still doing content because I need to make ad revenue, but this little hiatus of mine, it's allowed me to watch other things. And I'm like, you know what? I know KJ's been in a bunch of stuff. Let me look at some of these projects. So I just found like various clips online, episodes of different television shows she's been in and movies. Holy crap. Yes, that's a lot of stuff. I haven't watched everything, but it's one of those situations where I see a different side of her acting that I'm not accustomed to through Andy. And it's like, wow, yeah, no doubt. She was the, biggest name on the ticket during season 1 or when the show was first coming out. So yeah, you go back to season 1, Andy's story was the one with those cliffhangers had me going, okay, I can't wait to see what happens next Wednesday night. And then we move into the future seasons, seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5. For me personally, and let me put it this way, when it comes to Sisters, even though Andy was like the core member of the group, the one who obviously had the main story during season 1, I kind of always felt that Sisters didn't have a lead singer. Think of the Temptations. When you think Temptations, 9 times out of 10, the first person who you will think of is David Ruffin. But the thing about it is, David was one of many leads in that group. And I mean, this is, you know, as the years went on, so many members came and went. But when I think of the Temptations, there was no, like, one main singer. You had David Ruffin, who led a lot of hits. You had Eddie Kendrick. You had Paul Williams. Then eventually down the line, after David got the boot, or the Bobby Brown treatment, you had Dennis Edwards come in, and he just took the group to a new level like Johnny Gill did to New Edition. So, yeah, there were a lot of lead singers in that group. And when I think of Sisters, it's kind of the same thing. Because even though Andy's story is the main story of Sisters, or at least it was in my opinion, I'll get to Zach and Fatima later, the main story in Sisters, Karen is kind of the de facto leader of the Sisters group, or the Sister Circle. I mean, think about it. More often than not, she's the one to kind of rally the troops when it came to, you know, dealing with Andy's drama with Gary and whatnot. And I would say, despite Karen kind of being the leader of the group, I think Danny would be the lead. Here's why. Because of the fact that her big personality won't allow someone like Karen to talk down to her and whatnot. Because remember, one of the things in season 1, the friction in the group came from Zach being high off of her, what was it, like vape pen or something like that? I remember Zach was high in a bathtub with a rubber ducky and a cowboy hat, and he was running his mouth telling all the tea about Karen and the girls just talking shit about Danny behind her back, and Karen being the main one. And then Danny got really pissed off about that. I think Danny could be the leader because she usually voices what everybody else is thinking, but is too afraid to say. And then all the girls would be like, shut up. But then as soon as somebody else says exactly what Danny said, several episodes later, all of a sudden it's a good idea. Danny has that I ain't got time for this shit energy. And I feel like that's why she doesn't, quote unquote, lead the group. Because honestly, if the group followed her advice or her suggestions from the jump, a lot of problems would be resolved really quickly. So overall, I guess you could argue that, yeah, in terms of story, Andy is like the main sister. But in terms of the quote unquote leader of the pack, that would be Karen. Sabrina's a follower. Danny is stubborn, and it's like, honestly, I don't think she really follows anybody lead because she ain't got time for this shit. So that's really how I look at it. But as the show went on, yes, I think it's safe to say that Zach and Fatima, they stole the show. I've already been over this. Season 3, I even said, like, you know, Fatima was arguably the Steve Urkel of the group. Somebody who was given, you know, a minor role, but because of fan reaction and whatnot, blew up to being one of the main characters. And, you know, her and Zach, that combo, that 1-2 punch, led to them getting a spinoff. Ain't no Danny spinoff. Ain't no Karen spinoff. Ain't no Andy spinoff. Because, well, Andy's the quote-unquote main character of Sisters. So, but what I'm saying is this. I think that going back to the tweet, the line that really had me going, man, ugh. So her storyline, Andy, should remain relevant and interesting. But it really hasn't. I think it boils down to the fact that Tyler Perry just keeps writing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's ridiculous. It's gotten to the, well, it's been gotten to the point of I just don't get it anymore. I honestly don't. I mean, 1 minute, season 5 is a perfect example. 1 minute, Gary is planning to sue Andy. They have this, well, she's like breaking down in Hayden's office, and it's like, you really want to hurt me? And then all of a sudden, if I remember correctly, she's driving home. He calls her about coming over, and she's like, well, when you do, write down a list of, I forgot, what was it, a list of everything you've done wrong or something. It was something ridiculous. And I thought to myself, where the hell did this come from? This is not the kind of conversation you have with somebody who just tried to sue you. It just felt so forced. And one of my favorite examples of this is Calvin and Sabrina, that falling out they had at the bank after Jacoby knocked his ass out. And then Calvin, licking his wounds for most of the season. This was season 3, I think, towards the first half of the season. And then in like the mid-season finale or something, Maurice all of a sudden calls Sabrina on his phone, then hands the phone to Calvin, and he's like, Sabrina? Calvin? We need to talk. And he goes over there, and I'm like, there is no reason for you two to talk. It just feels so forced. So with the Andy and Gary stuff, I'm just looking, okay, yes, things are like, okay, so is Andy possibly using Gary and, other factors to eventually make it to partner, blah, 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 run the law firm, even though she became partner in season 2. I've already done a video on that with proof from the episode. I forgot what episode it was, but here's a clip. I think when you look at season 5, and I mentioned this in another video, I forgot which one, I honestly felt like Karen was the main sister of season 5 because of the fact that most of damn near every episode synopsis had Karen and her feelings towards Zach and or Fatima in the damn description. She was the main sister that season, not Andy. Andy, all she did that season, I think one of my favorite Gary moments was when he looked over at Andy. He's like, so what are we doing? I felt like that just encompassed my feelings, or a lot of fans' feelings, towards this quote-unquote pairing since season 1. What the hell are we doing? Because I sure as hell don't know, because I've been scratching my head wondering what Tyler is doing with these characters. And then, you had the whole her treating Robin like crap. Look, my feelings about Andy aside, I do not like her. I don't think that she was the main sister of season 5. I felt like, if nothing else, she was like the gopher for the other sister. Go for this, go for that. Hey, go talk to Robin. Hey, go to the jail. Help out Sabrina. Oh, go. And another reason I felt like she was definitely not the main character is when she self-inserted herself into the plot that involved Karen going over to Zach and Fatima's house to talk. And you had no reason to go over there. It's just like, hey. No. What was that moment I really loved? It was season 5A when Madam showed up. And I think Zach was going over to Karen's for that whole letter reading bullshit. And Zach and Fatima were doing like, hey, I love you too. And then Andy's like, hey, that's enough. Back to my story. She didn't say that verbatim, but I'm like, I remember making a meme of that. I'm like, Andy is like, hey, y'all got y'all spinoff. Let me get back to my story now. That's when I'm like, yeah, it's like, Andy, it's season 5. You're still doing the same shit. So I think that for me, the main sister is interchangeable. It was established from the beginning that it was Andy, but Zach and Fatima's just overshadowed. They became like, hey, the Jackson 5, but no, Michael Jackson just overshadowed everybody else. When it came to him going solo, aka the Zatima spinoff, it's like, hey, you became bigger than the group. And Zatima, like I said time and time again, I honestly think they don't need to be in the show anymore. Not as main characters, they could be like recurring, but season 5 of Sisters, I still stand on it. It ruined Zach and Fatima. There should not have been as much focus on those two in season 5 as there was. Zach and Fatima, they used to show up together for like 2 to 3 minutes an episode if we were lucky. and that overshadowed everything else going on with the other sisters. Because Sabrina, I know, never made, she's a follower. Danny, I wouldn't even say she's a leader, because when she tries to lead, none of the other girls want to follow her, and she's over that. And then when they eventually come to their senses and suggest something that they all agree upon, it's the same thing Danny said a while ago. So Danny could like care less about being involved in the sisters group. Hence why I would never consider her like the main character. But then it's like, you know, like I said, it's been established that it's supposed to be Andy. But when it comes to the main character of a show, if their story isn't intriguing, I've never considered Andy a good protagonist, because her entire story started on the foundation of Andy's character was, hey, this woman has been in a 6-month affair. She's waiting for this guy who has said he's going to divorce his wife. Granted, he eventually did, but I don't think that's a good foundation to base a character we should be rooting for. I don't think I've ever really rooted for Andy outside of season 1, when things really got, you know, interesting with the whole Leslie telling her about the feds and whatnot. And then when she got her promotion and everything in season 2, and I'm like, I mean, am I supposed to feel happy for her? This is really on the basis of her having an affair. You know, I mean, what the hell? Am I supposed to cheer? I'm a man. I know I'm a man. I'm not the target audience, so it's like, well, you don't know. Yeah, and I don't want to. Like, to have my success, my, you know, financial and professional come up be a result of sleeping around and whatnot, I don't think I could look at myself in the mirror. I'll be living in a nice house with a nice mirror, but I'd still have a little bit of regret. But when it comes to Andy, she's a user. She's a manipulator. Her common sense fluctuates more like, I don't know, her common sense fluctuates more than the price of gas. It's like, you know, when it comes to certain things, she's an expert. When it comes to Gary, she's a dum-dum. But I don't know. I just feel like the main character, I guess it's who you want it to be. Maybe it's the character you relate to the most. But truth be told, I don't think Andy is the main character anymore. Yes, her main story is integral to the show, but it's really boring. We're over 100 episodes in, and you're like, why is she still messing around with Gary? Oh, she's been the mastermind all along, trying to manipulate the system, become head of the law firm. Again, I'm not rooting for her. So, yeah, I think the main character, it's who you want it to be, but it was understood to be Andy. But like I said, because Zach and Fatima blew up so much, their story is the one people follow. I remember in season 3, I said, Zach and Fatima, they've saved Sisters. Because after season 2, it's like, nobody cared. I mean, how many episodes are we going to deal with Sabrina trying to chase somebody or interact, or not chase, but, you know, question whether or not to be with a man whose sexuality is always in question. The Q stuff, I don't want to talk about it. Good Lord, I don't want to talk about that crap. Danny, she had a good thing going with Preston, but then she fucked it up. Karen, she had a decent thing with Aaron, but then she got stuck on Zach again, and I don't know. Then Andy and Gary, it's just the same repetitive nonsense, and it has you going, wait, what exactly are they doing? I mean, Gary, why do you want this woman so bad when it's clear you can either have any other woman you wanted, somebody who's a lot less drama and trouble? And it's just like that sex therapist said in season 3 or 4, you love the chase, but what was it? Because if I remember correctly, they were engaged. Basically, Gary, his divorce was over, and he had Andy, but he couldn't have sex with her because he was too hung up on, you know, that dude Paris and whatnot, you know, the fact that she slept with him. But that therapist said, you like the thrill of the chase, and once the chase is over, you're pretty much done. So there's that. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Andy being the main character? Honestly, it doesn't matter. The show's number 1. It's over 100 episodes. We're going into season 6, so Hell, everybody's winning, but it is what it is. I just hope that in season 6, when it comes to quote unquote the main character having an interesting storyline, we get back to that. I want Zach and Fatima to do their thing, be better, but at the same time, the moment Zach and Fatima took off, the writing for the other characters just devolved and became worse than it was before. It didn't help. And I don't even blame Zach and Fatima. I think Zatima saved Sistas, but at the same time, you could tell that Sistas, the other 4 women, their characters really weren't going anywhere. I think at the core, it comes down to Tyler not wanting to let go of character or let go of cast. I said it before. Characters like Calvin, Gary, so many others, they have run their course. There is no need for them to be in the show anymore. I get the whole, hey, keeping people aboard to give them jobs. I mean, who am I to try to take money or food out of another person's mouth? But as a fan watching this show, it only makes sense to have other love interests and whatnot. I mean, Living Single, Khadijah had Scooter, but he wasn't in every damn episode. I mean, by the end of the series, he was in game, but he was only in 10 or so episodes. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. Khadijah dated a lot of other men. When you have people like Gary around for so long, when you have people like Calvin so long in the show dealing with Sabrina, it makes the main characters, the females, look dumb, because in real life, when you have all these fans going, I would not be in the situationship or whatever that this character's in, because it's just downright stupid. Either be with this person or not and let it go. So, I don't know. You could argue who the main character is, but I just feel like they just keep being reset personality and development wise, that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who's the main character? Do you even really care? And I will talk to you in the next one.